quick second here as everybody enters the waiting room. Okay. Just for time wise, we'll go ahead and get started. As a reminder, we are recording this. So if you want to share these with some colleagues or they're unable to make the call today, I'm going to send this out to everybody so you can forward it along to your team if needed. So again, good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kelly O'Neill with AOPA. I'm the Assistant Director of Meetings and Exhibitions for AOPA. I work closely with a lot of you throughout the year leading up to the show in regards to exhibits and sponsorship opportunities. Before we get started with today's presentation, I did first want to briefly kind of go over 4 key exhibitor engagement opportunities. There are ones that we've had in the past, but a few of them are just kind of different this year, and just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it. You've probably seen them in some exhibitor newsletters that did go out to everybody so far. But again, real quick, just 4 exhibitor engagement opportunities. First one being the Vegas Spirit Contest. So on Wednesday evening, the opening night of the reception, we're going to have a costume contest or booth contest, whatever you want to make it. So it's optional, but we encourage everybody to participate. So whether you just decorate your booth with some lights or, your staff dresses up or you have a specialized t-shirt that says something. We just hope everybody will kind of join in. And then we'll have the attendees vote. We'll have different categories for your size of your booth, so it's all fair. And we'll have the attendees vote to see who has the most Vegas spirit. Next, we are going to continue. We're going to have our second annual Best in Show. Hopefully you guys are familiar with this. We kicked it off last year for the first time, so we decided to hold it again. Again, this will be if you have a new product that you're launching at the show, you can sign up to be a part of this showcase. And again, we will have attendees going around to vote on what the best show is, best in show for these products that you've submitted. Thirdly is our AOPA Jackpot Scratch Off giveaway. This is very similar for those that have been around a while. Whenever we were in Vegas in the past, we kind of had a giant slot machine where you, the exhibitors, could participate. You would sign up for a select category and you would provide a number of prizes. Then basically on the giant slot machine, the attendee would pull the slot machine, and if 3 in a row matched a certain category and your company provided prizes in that category, they would then be directed to go to your booth to receive a prize. So we're kind of doing that same type of idea, but just changing it up a little bit. So instead of the giant slot machine, every attendee will receive a scratch off giveaway card. Those will be given out as attendees leave the general session each morning. So participation is free. It's just basically whatever prize you want to participate in. And lastly, the 2026 Digital OMP Showcase. I think we're on our 5th or 6th year of doing this. So especially all you 3D companies out there, we hope that you will participate. Again, participation is free. As long as you are 2026 exhibitors, and attendees do receive CE credits. So more information on all 4 of these engagement opportunities can be found under your quick links in your exhibit portal. So if you want to learn a little bit more about each of these, head to your exhibit portal or just send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So from now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce David Saef with FREEMAN, and he is going to kick us off for our webinar for today. Welcome, David.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm very excited to join you. For those of you who were exhibiting last year, I also did a webinar last year. And so I'm very excited about that. And very excited just to give you a perspective. By the way, as you know, FREEMAN is the contractor, the general contractor to help you plan and order services. I am not here to talk about ordering services, although Kelly and I are going to touch on this later in the call. I'm here to provide insights, strategies, and tools to optimize your success. Now, Before we go into this, and I did have chat up, but I just switched into the sharing screen. So I'm going to ask Kelly and Joy to monitor the chat for me. I'm going to ask for a couple of favors from you because I do want you to participate. So I'm going to start with my first question, which is, if you have exhibited at National Assembly, could each of you just go in and just shoot out the number of years you've participated in the National Assembly? All right, I'm going to start into this, and then Kelly, I'd love to just get in a ballpark from you because I can't quite see chat when I do this. Just kind of what the average number of years is of the people on this call, and then I'm going to have my second question. There could be three participating questions, and I wish I had like a casino card like Kelly just talked through. Oh, hang on a second, I can see chat now. Hang on, I'm going to move that over so I can see it over here. Awesome. So I see, gosh, we got number of years. Perfect. All right. Would love for other people to weigh in with the number of years you've participated. I'll tee up the next question actually in the chat. But here's what I want to do. I want to provide insights on who comes and what attendees are seeking. I want to provide you with strategies to drive traffic and convert leads, to have meaningful engagement with people, and then to increase visibility and meaningful interactions. Kelly and I, as we prepared for this, we talked about AI. And so I'm going to show you some work that I did on AI for an exhibitor at the show. And I'm going to show you my raw work because I know AI is a hot topic. We get this question a lot, like, how can I use AI? And so I just decided, listen, I'm just going to go in. I picked out an exhibitor at random and I ask a bunch of questions and I'm going to show you what it showed me. I'm also going to show you some of the hiccups in going through this. The whole goal here is to give you a better sense of what you can do to make your life easier with AI. And by the way, I'll also share the tool I use, which you're probably going to get a slightly different answer from some of the other tools. But the goal is not just to help you prepare, but to make it easier for you to plan and then to be able to go and be successful at the show. So, um, first, just the primary driver for people. Last year, hang on a second. I believe, hang on. I'm going to do a quick pause here because I'm now realizing that this slide is different from what it should be. Hang on 2 seconds here as I go through this. So the number one reason is not CE credits. I don't know how that slipped in there, but I'm going to get that right back on track for you in just a moment here. The number one reason is the exhibit hall. Is for people to see and to engage with your products at the exhibit hall. And so it is critical. And I'm going to show you some of the key aspects of exhibiting to make the most of your sharing your products at the exhibit hall. So let me just go right. I apologize for that. And we're going to go right into it in just 2 seconds here. All right. Let me get this right back on. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to roll with it. So here we go. I'm going to share again. The exhibit hall is the number one reason. The number two reason is to get CE credits for attending the show. This is going to skip to the next slide because this, for some reason, I had a glitch in my computer. But the number one reason has been actually, and this is from last year, the 25% was exhibit hall, 24% was CE credits. This is from last year, so I apologize. I don't know how that hiccup happened. But the reason why I mentioned the exhibit hall is so important is that what people really want to see in the exhibit hall, and you guys can hopefully see this. So what people really want to understand is new products, and they want to understand it in a more meaningful and engaging way than they've done in the past. So it is critical for everyone who is an exhibitor here, and I know you all are, that you are thinking about who you are trying to engage with and what you are trying to convey. And part of my goal in talking through your approach is to really understand what we call now gen audiences. So now we're on the slide that you can see. And now gens, these are the folks that they're 22 to 44 years old. For those of you on the call, they're either millennials or Gen Z. You are digital natives, meaning growing up. This is for the now gens and for the millennials and Gen Z, folks who grew up in an online, digitally aware, and forward environment. What does that mean for you as an exhibitor? It really means that for those of you who have not done your online profile or your listing, if you haven't thought about what your new products are, I'm going to just encourage you, take time on this call. This is where I don't mind if you use your time to really think through what it is that you're trying to promote, What are the new capabilities and the new products that you have to share? And how can you make sure that your audiences are aware of the opportunity for them to engage with you? So I just want to underscore that digital and native aspect. They'll be using the app to do research. They'll be using the website to do research well in advance of arriving at National Assembly in Las Vegas. You want to make sure you are in front of their eyes when they're looking for that information. By the way, an industry statistic for those folks who get their listing done months in advance, they'll have somewhere between 6 and 10 times more hits to their listing than when they do it weeks in advance. So I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna give you permission to, if you want, over the next minute or two, if you feel like what I'm saying is kind of redundant, go into your listing, make sure it's updated. I've already been on the website. I've seen many listings that are updated, but if you haven't thought about what you're trying to position yourself to do, what your new products are, please do that. Couple other key things here. Now gens really want transparent value, meaning they have come to this event to understand what they can learn and what they can use. And I'll add the phrase on Monday morning. So when you think about how you're presenting yourselves and how you're going to engage, please think about what is the value to whichever type of attendee you're dealing with. So it could be someone who is thinking about or researching different uses. It could be someone who's applying, someone who is trying to adapt to a certain need. Make sure you're thinking about how you are delivering and understanding what their needs are. They're also socially conscious. So for those of you thinking about not just inclusivity, but accessibility and also sustainability, those are just automatics that they're looking for. And then the last piece around authentic connections. So for many attendees and most folks now coming through, I mean, I say this respectfully, boomers are mostly retired, but not fully. Over the next 3 or 4 years, we're going to see really like 5% of the workforce be boomers. Xers are obviously advanced in their careers. Both of them have supported and are engaged typically on the expo floor. But really, when you think about millennials and Gen Z, they're looking for authentic connections. So I want to be cautious in my advice that you're careful not to be too commercial as much as you're listening and addressing the urgent needs of your audiences. Now, why do people come to show? They want to discover new products and solutions. That is the number one reason of their career priorities that they're seeking. And so it is really critical that you think about what it is that your new offering does. I'm going to say some things a couple of times on this webinar, so I should probably apologize, but Kelly called out the new product showcase and your opportunity to promote a new product. I just want to underscore new is what they are seeking. By the way, here's a corollary to that. For the products that you've been offering, you're coming to the show year after year after year. If you have a product manager who really wants that in the booth, be careful with your placement in your booth, because the attendees, while they might appreciate what you have had on offer, they're all going to seek new. Please bear that in mind. And again, listing new product showcase. They're also looking for training and technical competency in their professional careers. This is across all trade shows. This is part of our Freeman Trends research. I want to come back to this topic because what I'm going to be walking through, and this is based on research we've done in the last year, what they want from a booth interaction isn't just to know what it is, but also how they can apply the knowledge or the advantages of your product. Um, Second thing from our research across different events and shows, they really want to see samples and hands-on demonstrations. This is another big theme, more on the hands-on than on the samples, because not everybody has a sample, but they want demonstrations, which are a little more passive than active. They absolutely want hands-on interactivity. By the way, I saw the tenure of many people through my chat, and I love that. Some of you have a couple of years experience, many more than a couple of years of experience. I also saw Kelly's note, and I would encourage you, if you have a question, by all means, take yourself off mute, ask me your question. But here's what I'm going to ask of all of you on this call, and it's going in chat right now. If you have exhibited, and I see many of you have, could you just, as you're listening and watching, you know National Assembly better than I do, particularly for the folks who are tenured. I would welcome and I would urge you to drop in your tips and tricks. I know there may be something you may say like it's proprietary or whatever, but I think it's an opportunity for us to just share things at work or just pieces of advice. I still have my third question coming, but would encourage you to use chat to drop in tips and tricks because the power of this entire medium of live is really enabling the attendees to see the breadth of what's on show and the depth of what they can learn by engaging with attendees on site. You're going to see the vendor swag and giveaways at 35%, also important and influences people. Printed product, by the way, printed materials. Don't bring a lot of it. It's not sustainable. But we find actually with Gen Z, they want more printed materials because they can recall it and take it away. There is a high degree usually of waste. So I want to be very careful. Don't bring 18 brochures, but maybe one or two one-page handouts is perfectly fine for people to see. Why is it so important to do hands-on demonstrations? Because attendees say it's easier for them to advocate for a product or service. It's easier to determine if it's a good fit for their organization. For some folks, they may be users of your product or solution as opposed to be buyers. But it's really important now for people to spend more time interacting, seeing your offerings, being able to use those offerings. This is very different from the way things have been in the last 10 or 15, well, more than that, probably 20, 25 years. Having a hands-on experience is critical. And part of it is because Gen Zs and millennials, and I know I'm generalizing here, but generally, if they can see it on YouTube, they've already seen it. They didn't come to the event to see something they could have acquired through the online your online videos. So please think about the unique interactivity, the unique facets of what your offers are in how you are presenting your service. The other piece I want you to think about is this shift. So for a long time, events, conferences, meetings, and assemblies have been staffed at the solution center on the expo floor by salespeople. I want to underscore the criticality of subject matter experts. Could be somebody in R&D, could be somebody in project management, could be somebody with online help, but it is somebody who has a deep knowledge either of what you do, how you do it, or how you support it. This is the big shift. People want to ask questions from people with not just a familiarity, but an expertise in how to make the service that you're offering work better for them. So please think about, and I guess here's what I'm not saying. Don't disinvite sales, but make sure you're bringing a subject matter expert. Also, for sales, I would say if you have representatives, make sure they understand they are on from 6 in the morning till 10 at night. They're on booth duty every single hour, and they should be at the facility from the first part of the day, going to relevant sessions when they can, interacting at the bars at the hotels in the evening. If they are constrained or feeling that they need to take other meetings or phone calls, I would politely disinvite them and say that I understand that you have a lot of conflicts and priorities. I don't want to be another demand on your time. So I would give you the show off. Everything in a booth can work, but if the people don't work it, you will not hit your goals and succeed. So think of it as I heard this guy gave a speech and he said, listen, I think we better give you your time back than to have someone come, not spend much time in your booth and do a disservice because they don't understand your product. So how we're going to target and engage audiences. First, and this is going to be a little bit of mom and pop for those of you who have been in this business and you've been to meetings and assemblies before, but I really want you to consider your AOPA goals for 2026. And those goals should really be objective, quantifiable, and actionable. Now, I get a lot of questions. What does actionable mean? The way we define actionable is some action that can be taken within 10 to 12 weeks of the end of the assembly. It could be a phone call, it could be a meeting, it could be a purchase, it could be sending out a piece of collateral, but it is something that is an action that can be tracked and measured. Ideally, it's closing a business or expanding a relationship or talking about ongoing service, but it is an action. It's quantifiable because you have a number of leads. And I will show you, by the way, how I used AI to determine leads for a random 10 by 10 or a small booth. and just make sure they're objective, that they are clearly understandable by your senior leadership all the way through any of your immediate stakeholders and salespeople. Um, I want to share with you a practice that I use when I prepare for any kind of live event. This is, I'll call this a little old school because I did it before. I still do it now, but I use AI to frame it, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. So first, if you don't use AI or you choose not to use AI, my recommendation is you go to a quiet place where you can do your best thinking and write a 2 to 3 paragraph quote. And in that quote, you will include the following things. Who is your target audience? Very briefly, but really, how would they describe their experience with your brand? Put it in the voice of your target attendee, the person you want to speak with, and then put it in that first person voice, meaning I received a phone call and they invited me to come to the booth and they said that they wanted to meet with me and we talked about a date and then I came to the event and at assembly I saw them at one of the breakfast times or coffee times and we chatted briefly about how we can have a deeper conversation. When I went up to the booth, I really enjoyed talking about whatever it is that you offer, talking about the different design techniques, use of CAD, AI, service. It was a really in-depth and valuable conversation. I'm going to share with you some metrics later about how I define success in that conversation. I saw them later, maybe at the bar, maybe on a walk, and then I felt like we broadened our relationship. So, in other words, I'm really writing what I want someone to say post-event. It's something that we do in my strategy and insights group. We interview attendees about their experience with exhibitors. And so we're looking for you to write that ideal quote of what a target lead of yours says and does, and how that works for you. I also want you to think about what you want the audience to remember about your interaction with them. What are the key 3 takeaways you want them to have? Maybe it's about a new product. Maybe it's about the expertise. Maybe about it's the way you're thinking about the design or the process or the communications. But what are the 3 things? And by the way, we're keeping it less than 4 because we're all human beings. It's really hard to remember more than 3 or 4 things. So I try to keep this really simple. Also, when training booth staff who usually have not had the time that you have had to think about and prepare, it's being able to talk through and reinforce what are the 3 things, could be 2, by the way, but 2 or 3 things you want people to remember. So that way they don't have to think about a complicated strategy and script. Okay. I want to help talk about AI for a second. And I don't know. And by the way, if you want to go into chat, I would love to know if you call yourself an Uber user, a casual user, a moderate user. It would be great if you're willing to self-identify. But I'm going to assume that some of us are Uber users and some of us are still kind of wondering how and where. Um, and for the purposes of the next couple of slides, I just want to say that I did use a platform called Claude, which is a enterprise platform available to Freeman. I have used Copilot. I have also used an AI tool called Perplexity. I know there's OpenAI. I know there's a variety of different tools. So Claude is the way I did this, but I wanted to show you because one of the things I hear from people a lot is like, what do you even say? And so you'll see on number 1 is literally, and I'm going to show you what I wrote. But my company, and it says I didn't even write it right. My company is attending a open national assembly. This is my first time. My company produces X. Our capabilities are Y. What is my best approach? By the way, the irony is even with my mistakes, and this is why I wanted to be very transparent with you, it still understood it. Where where it says FU under 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, that just means follow up. So just to make it easy. So it's going to give me an answer. I'm going to show you some of those answers. Then you say, oh, that's great. So what should we do in the booth to make it most impactful? Which sessions should we attend if you have a pass to go to which sessions? What would be a good way to stand out pre-show? So you can see like my language isn't that complicated. And for some of you, this is going to be intuitive. For some of you, it might be helpful. And I would encourage you to plagiarize all of this, except for the mistakes, the spelling and the editing. But you can see these are the prompts. I'm happy to talk through, kind of what other prompts. Now I'm going to show you what I did, and I'm going to show you the actual work. So I went to the listings. I went down to L, and I found Lind Extend, which is an exhibitor at the show. So I don't know if there's anybody from Lind Extend, and you'll have to apologize for any, by the way, any mistakes. If there's anyone from Lind Extend on this call, there was no coordination. All the mistakes are mine. Any of the good advice and anything that they do is theirs. But I just randomly did this. Okay. So I said, and you can see like I didn't capitalize, I didn't do punctuation necessarily. And I know for those of you who are familiar, like you can put things in really fast, but this is exactly what I wrote. Company Lind Extend. I'm trying to figure out the best way to stand out at EOPA. What can I do to promote my company? You can see it, right? I want to show you what it said, okay? So first, it said, this is from Claude now, know your best fit audience at AOPA, O&P practitioners and processes at the independent clinics who prescribe and fit components, clinic owners and O&P business managers, rehabilitation physicians, physiatrists, and then distributors and GPO partners. So this is like, it's teeing up where I should target, okay? By the way, if you're from Linux, then you probably may tell me some of this is inaccurate, and we'll talk about that too. I then, I said, hey, what should I do to go? Now, I'm showing you both the answer and a mistake in the answer. So pre-show, complete your online exhibitor profile fully. By the way, I think I've said that, like, I don't know, 3 times already. So again, like, do it, please, today. And you can see it gives advice. It talks about the founding. It talks about Christopher Lind. So there's some dynamics, where it's advising you what to say. Then it says reach out before you arrive, and it says look through the attendee exhibitor list when it's published. Okay, so Kelly and I talked about this, and Kelly said, hey, by the way, we don't provide a pre-show attendee list. Excuse me, AOPA does provide and can provide information post-show based on opt-ins. But so this is obviously a warning about AI. It's not always accurate. And I'll explain some of the mix-up that took place because Kelly and I worked through this. So anyway, it's going to give you good advice, but not perfect advice. And then prepare a targeted leave behind. See, it says create a one pager. Now, I didn't say, hey, what should I do with my one pager? It said unprompted, you should do a one pager. And it then describes what you should do with it. So this is a pre-show strategy. Okay. Then it goes on to boost strategy. And it says lead with the founder story, run live I mean, I'm not going into the details here, but run live product demos constantly. Bring a real patient ambassador if possible. Corner booth if available. I do want to remind you, 2 slides ago, I showed you exactly what I wrote. This is what Claude is telling me. So like, it is quite smart. Now, if you're from Lind Extend, you can put in the chat like, David, it's not totally accurate, probably, but it's probably pretty good for someone who's new to go to the show. Now, during the show, it says, leverage the welcome reception. Didn't I say like, hey, you should really think about what the whole journey is? Attend sessions in your product category. Have a specific call out to action in the booth. So it's really giving you quite a good strategy. For those of you who have been here a couple of years, I'm sure you're going to look at this and say, David, I don't know about this. I don't know about going to the welcome reception. I mean, I get it. And I understand that some things are going to work better than others. And but for someone who's new, or maybe it's your second or third year, this could be a good way for you to get started with AI. Amplifying presence, post on LinkedIn during the show, explore sponsorship add-ons. I want to come back to that point. Schedule a meetup or dinner. By the way, this is for, of course, your staff and your subject matter experts. Subject matter experts are staff and they're subject matter experts. So for your R&D person, your service person, please, they need to know like they're working the whole show, not the whole assembly, not just the expertise part of it. And then there are various differentiators. Now, again, if you work for this company, I'm sure you're going to say, I don't know if I'd emphasize this or that. That's up to you. And if you're a competitor, by the way, you can certainly ask about some of your competition. What do you think they're going to position themselves as? But there's one key piece of this slide that I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say, like, this is the most important piece of this entire presentation. And I'm going to put it in chat. And because if this is not true, it must be going forward. If you're going to go to National Assembly, you need to make sure that you are in an intimate first name basis with Kelly O'Neill. Why? And I know, by the way, Kelly's not giving me any kind of casino card or anything else to say this. The reason why, and I'll just make it generic. Kelly is the point person for this assembly. And if you're not familiar with Kelly, the reason why this is important is because Kelly and Joy and the whole team, and you can say Joy needs to be your best friend too, they are intimately involved with the planning of the National Assembly. They're intimately involved with all the offerings. In fact, when I was going through this with Kelly, she's like, when I show you the next slide, she said to me, by the way, David, what AI said is not totally accurate, and I'll explain that in a minute. But if you're thinking about a sponsorship, if you're thinking about a boost strategy, if you're wondering if you could do this, or maybe you need to address some of the rules, Kelly's the first person you should be calling. And you should be kind of building a relationship now and not later, because Kelly can give you feedback with joy about what works. They can give you feedback of what you might want to reconsider. I've had conversations with event organizers where they'll say, what you're really trying to do is get some VIPs. Like I had this advice. Someone said to me, I wanted to send over a wrapped van to Las Vegas McCarran Airport and take it to Mandalay Bay, which is the site of the event that I was running. And they said, it's because I had VIPs. And they said, it's funny, 10 years ago, someone did that and it worked really well. No one's done it for 10 years. If you want to do it, you can do it and I can promote it for you for a small sponsorship fee. So, in other words, event organizers, leaders like Kelly and Joy, they have a body of knowledge across exhibitors where they're not going to violate a relationship with the exhibitor, but they might give you great advice on things you could do that haven't been done for a while or things that are outside the norm. And their job is to create a better event, a better assembly for your attendees and your exhibitors and sponsors. They're not always going to say yes, I'll just warn you, but they're definitely going to engage and try and make this work for you. So, and by the way, if you have no budget, even the more reason to do it. I'll get back to that later, how to work without a budget. Sponsorship recommendation. I'm not going to go through all of this. In fact, Kelly highlighted a number of these things: the value package, the exhibits passbook. I think she mentioned that at the top of the webinar. I'm going to touch on the passbook in a minute. The assembly show T-shirt, the coupon in the final program. But see on the right-hand side, it says add the product preview theater unopposed time. That sponsorship has already been taken. So here's where AI doesn't know everything, is that it doesn't know what's been sold and what's not been sold. There is another product theater that is available to you if you want to secure it at a different price, but that this one particularly is in particular is not available. So I think that the key that I wanted you to get a sense of is AI can be very helpful. Put those 4 slides together. There's a lot of information that came through, and I'm going to show you briefly, just at the top of this screen real quick. This is my screen. This is the research that I did. And you can see I'm a new exhibitor at the Open National Assembly this year. Our company's Linux 10. Went through all of this material and got me to those slides that I just showed you. So I'm going to show you some other slides from this, but I just wanted to give you a sense like that is literally the work that I did. So I do hope that helps you. And for those of you who have not been so familiar with AI, my best advice is treat it like a junior person working for your organization. Ask it to do things and ask it to do things that you think are fairly straightforward. Expect a junior person to not know or make mistakes. Make sure you read things carefully. Okay, moving on. Generating big results is all about a give and get. And I really want you to think about who you're targeting pre, at, and post show and what you are building. So up here is the ways to engage the folks at National Assembly. You don't need to talk to every one of them. You need to talk to the ones that are most important to you. By the way, I do want to underscore, especially in this day and age where people are looking to meet other people, even if you meet someone who's not your target audience, I would still encourage you to have a very positive reaction because that person probably knows somebody who you want to talk to. Here, I want you to think about what you're trying to do, building anticipation, scheduling meetings, collecting attendee information. Remember, saying that you're going to schedule 8 meetings, put something defined and quantifiable as an objective. Whether you take them, you can measure, and then you can analyze the feedback. But it should be measurable efforts. Get rid of things that don't work, enhance things that do work. And so, and by the way, you can see this is in the entire event from start to finish, not just what do you do in the booth. The biggest mistake of exhibitors is to go with your staff and stand in your booth and wait for people to come and engage with you. That is the biggest mistake. The opportunity you have is across the entire campus, the entire time you are in Las Vegas. The minute you leave your house, you are on. So I would treat it that way, and I would think about all those touch points, especially if you're a small exhibitor with no budget. But for folks who are larger, I think you have a better sense of kind of where you need to be. Joy has produced a kit, which I believe is online or will be online shortly, which provides a variety of assets for you to use. A label or a tag that you can put that you're exhibiting onto your emails or onto your communications, highlighting the assembly itself, or even there's a crafted email that you can send out to target attendees that highlights loads of ways they can go to National Assembly. This is for you to be used to make your life easy. You could adapt this by taking this language into AI, asking it to compare to your company what you're trying to do, and maybe tailor it a little bit if you wanted to. You don't have to keep the standard message, but if you want to keep the standard message, it works easily as a copy paste. So different assets are available to you with the marketing toolkit. Um, I also want you to think about how you're engaging using social. Maybe not all of your target attendees are using social platforms, but I would encourage you to think about when and how you engage with social. Couple thoughts on that. One, what are the hot times when people are generally peaking on social traffic? When the program's announced, key speakers are announced, or pricing deadlines. In other words, AOPA is engaging in social chatter at least at these times. There may be other times, but think about how you are piggybacking on that social chatter to get the word out. I would be less commercial and more authentic about how you can enable attendees to make the most of their AOPA National Assembly. So in other words, calling that people should come and visit you at booth 35, not effective. Talking about trends or some of the session titles or speakers and how you're excited to extend that conversation into how you can build prosthetics that can be more effective or can be fitted easier. That is a more meaningful, engaging vignette than just merely promoting yourself. For those of you on very limited budgets, I'm going to suggest an idea that I've suggested in many other conferences called the unofficial guide. If you've gone to National Assembly at least a year or two, usually 2 to 3 years, um, and the sorry, if you've gone at least a year or 2 to 3 years, you will notice there's a rhythm to National Assembly. There's a rhythm at how people convene. There's a rhythm at how they navigate between the hotel and the sessions and the sessions in the exhibit hall. You'll also know when people have downtime, where they might go, some of the popular places. You can choose to add on additional recommendations, restaurants, theater recommendations, even casinos or some places to go. And so I encourage you to write the unofficial guide on how they can navigate this event. Any person who's going to write this is going to have a different view. I do encourage you to share this with Kelly and Joy so they have a sense of it. They might choose to promote it. They might not. They might say, listen, that's kind of unofficial. So we're not going to necessarily back it, but they might. I mean, I've seen conferences say, listen, what you're doing is just different. It's additional promotional and ways to promotion and ways to explain the conference, but it's a way for you to be genuinely useful to the people attending National Assembly and associate that usefulness with your company. Which brings me to my third question. What is your, I'm writing this down as I'm talking, favorite Las Vegas off-strip restaurant? So for those of you who have gone to Las Vegas, and I am going to add mine just to get us going here, okay? So you're going to have to look at chat. Now, here's my warning to you. For those of you who are seeing what I put in chat, if you want to book that restaurant, if you can't do it right now, make sure you make a note in June. That restaurant books 2 to 3 months in advance, and when there are different shows in town, it will book up. It is considered uh, for I guess I can say the cuisine. It's the best Thai restaurant west of the Mississippi River. Books up well in advance, has an excellent wine list. It is off strip. It is a very, in my opinion, reasonable budget, especially compared to the strip. I will leave it to others to add to this list. I would recommend that you do share with one another because the chances of everybody going to the same restaurant at the same time is quite low. Okay, moving on. Uh, Sponsorships. There are variety. There is a link, and I can work with Kelly to send you that link post event. The Assembly Show T-shirt. You can buy it, or you can buy it as part of package one with the passports book. This is a way to get notoriety and get awareness around the National Assembly. The exhibit's pass book is a different opportunity for people to have visitors come to your booth and to engage with you. The first 100 attendees get a little Starbucks gift card. Again, it can be purchased or it can be done in combination with the Assembly Show t-shirt. One other thing that I forgot to mention, because it was on the original slide, 27% of people who go to National Assembly are first timers. So let me say that one more time. I'm going to put it in chat because I think this is a really important piece uh, of attendees, first timers. 27% are first timers. What does that mean? If you've been at National Assembly for the last 10 years, 15 years, or 30 years, those people do not know who you are. You have an opportunity to find their experience in the minute they walk in and they see who you are, or the minute they get into communication from you. Please bear this in mind. Sometimes we take it for granted that everybody knows us, but if they're first timers to this event, they might know you, but they might not. So really think about that experience. Um, I want to give you some food for thought in terms of attendee activations and experiences. Most of these are affordable. If they aren't, I'll call it out, but it's just one spotter campaign. This is done by Iatric. This is a slap wrist experience. You know, they mentioned kind of getting slap happy. It's visible. It's a little bit like the t-shirt, but it's a colored wristband and it allows people to, oh, by the way, Esther's Kitchen is awesome. It's in downtown Vegas. So that's a great call out. That's in the chat for those of you who are wondering, like, why do you say Esther's Kitchen? It's in the chat. Iatric, Slap Happy wristband. It's a spotter campaign. It raises awareness. Number two, the attendee designed booth. So you see on the back wall, there's a different kind of a picture there, and on the table, attendees are participating. Very big with millennials and Gen Z. You could do this as literally kind of help me make my booth, or it could be a wall where people share their challenges, they share their needs, they share the most cutting edge innovation of what's going on in the space. But people, especially now Gens, millennials and Gen Z, love to share and they love this kind of experiential activity. Number three, architecting your product display. Don't just make it a standard shelf. By the way, I'm going to give you another hint of something I tell every event organizer, and I don't know if this is in the rules, but if it isn't, I would say please make it your rule number one. If you have a table in your booth, 10 by 10, 10 by 20, so you're typically small, 10 by 30, do not put your table at the aisle. Do not. Please, I'm begging you. We have seen anecdotally, and I've seen through some data that companies that put the table at the aisle, put chairs behind the table, sit on chairs, and end up getting less engagement and less leads. This is a great way to display your product, put the table inside the booth, let people step in. So engage them in the aisle, step in, have the conversation, talk about your offering and how you can help them address their needs or train them up, upskill them in the moment. Go live. We've seen it with we've seen this more than a couple of times now over the last year or so. Companies who are building in a podcast to their booth. This is a very small booth, by the way, 10 by 10. Not everybody wants to do this. Not everybody feels this is the right way to do it, but this is a way to bring in expertise, gain a bit of a crowd, and have a conversation at the same time. There is some sensitivity around audio. Not that this is broadcast per se, but it's another strategy for gaining awareness and gaining that association with subject matter experts. Sometimes, by the way, there's a podcast that's done as a sponsorship. Sometimes it's done as an exhibit, but it's a totally different way to go to show and talk about literally what you're doing and how that can impact different folks with needs. Offer a VIP ticket only at your booth. So sometimes we see companies who are sponsoring a VIP gathering, could be even tickets to a show, but that the eligibility to get that ticket is only available if they come by and stop at your booth. Some of you may say, David, that's going to be a giveaway to a bunch of people that aren't interested in my product. I would encourage you to qualify how you give away those VIP tickets or access to the folks you really want to speak with, or make it a condition of the way you engage with them at your booth. So you have something desirable that they want. What you're asking for is a little bit of time and a meaningful conversation. Immersion. We see this usually every show has got a couple of booths that just knock it out of the park and doing something inspirational, immersive, and fun. It could be that it's just completely artistic. One of the things that I want to caution you about is making sure it's relevant to the conversation so it doesn't feel like it's coming out of the blue, but it has a message. And I'll leave it to the creative folks to really share where that could go. Combo reveal and build. What you'll see on the back wall here is a series of Post-it notes. This is how budget sensitive this can be. Series of Post-it notes. Those post-it notes can be used to write down people's challenges or their needs. And as you pull post-it notes off this back wall, it then reveals a message for attendees. So this is both a reveal and can be done as a build, by the way. So you build as you put more post-it notes on the back wall. For a more sophisticated version of this, you can do this with taking pictures and adding it to a mosaic. So there's a different version digitally, but all of this is a reveal or a build. It creates intrigue. Attendees like to come back for conversations. That's the purpose of this, is create intrigue to the point where people come back and you can have additional conversations with them. Augmented reality. So people have heard of virtual reality. You've seen it with Meta and some other companies. I'm gonna promote more of the augmented reality. This is more of the QR code enabled conversations. This technology allows you to see products virtually, including products in development that attendees can manipulate with the finger on their phone. So I'm happy to have a sidebar about this, but the one thing about this technology is nearly everyone has a phone with a camera. Nearly everyone is familiar with QR codes, maybe the only silver lining of acute COVID, but this is an enabling you to promote or showcase a capability even before it goes to market, or a capability of some kind of product or process that you cannot bring to National Assembly. So it's thinking about what's the best way to use your audience to do that. Branded collectible. We don't see it that often, but we do see it mainly more at healthcare meetings than any other meeting. This happened to be a road race, is the example I'm using. But American Heart Association, their European counterpart, has a pin. It's a collectible every year. It is available to one exhibitor. It takes a couple of years to build a tradition around this, but once you do, you almost have a guaranteed return rate because people want to get the collectible. It doesn't have to be fancy. Mugs are not fancy. Pins are not fancy. But once you get into the habit of that collectible, it's a showcase, of your ongoing commitment and participation in the community. Celebrating the bigger story. This has to do with the coronation of the king. I'm sorry, with the Harry and Meghan Markle wedding is what it is. This is basically taking a current event. Of course, I don't think we'd want to use any wars or any other kind of geopolitical issues, but as much as geopolitical celebrations like World Cup, which I think by September probably will be at its peak or at a conclusion. But if we think about what are the other major events, could be the World Series. So you're celebrating that event. You want to think about how it fits with your audience and then how you can position yourself to have an engagement around that particular news story. So that hopefully you've got some inspiration from those ideas. And I'm going to keep going quickly here and this slide is not going to work because it's not in presentation mode. Let me just go over here. I think this will be easier for you to see when I do it. Okay. All right. Hopefully you can all see that. This is the criteria I use to evaluate booth effectiveness. There are 7 criteria. I'm going to go through 6 briefly with you. One is around signage. It's what we call 110 and 1. 100 feet away in the hall, can I see that you are at the hall? Now, for 10 by 10, 10 by 20, 10 by 30, so small booths, you cannot do that because you can't do a hanging sign. But if you are a small booth, and I'm going to point to the 10 foot, this is going to sound absurd when I make this point, but I'm just going to underscore it. That your booth, your back wall, if you have a reception desk, if you have a demo area, it is amazing to me the number of companies that just don't simply put their brand on it. How do I know I'm in your booth if I can't confirm that you are you? For those of you in 10 by 10, by the way, your back wall, you have exactly 2.5 seconds to make an impression. Don't put lots of stuff on it. Make it really simple. Make it clear what you sell and why it matters. And I'm happy to have a follow-up on that because I can't tell you the number of back walls where it's a blur or staff stands so many people in front of it, I go right around you. 1 foot also, like if I'm looking right at your demo station or at your desk, I should know that it's your company. So just keep in mind the importance of branding. Otherwise, I lose sight of it. Make sure your entry is accessible and welcoming. If you have a larger booth, typically 20 by 20, 20 by 30, so like a 400, 600 or more square foot booth, just make sure I know where I'm going in the booth. Sometimes people get confused and the signage isn't clear. So I do need to know it's your company, but I don't need to have so many company signs that I don't know what products or what types of services that I'm really here to meet with. So just think about kind of what's that directional. The demo and sample stations. if you have that, make sure it's inviting and uncluttered. Sometimes we see booths that are just cluttered and I can't make sense of what you're trying to achieve. Make sure the demo is easily accessible and it has either immediate takeaways for me or maybe there's a one pager. Messaging, sometimes we see printed or digital media doing messaging at a trade show. Messaging at a trade show or at a conference or at a meeting is very different. Larger fonts, easier script to read, needs to be suitable to consume feet or even longer away. So it's not the same as an online website. Please bear that in mind. And then number six is probably the most important. What does it do for me? How does it help me learn or be inspired? How does it reinforce our desire to do business together? Those are the top six. Um, if you uh, if you're giving something out, maybe not candy. If you're going to give out a mint, fine. Everything else that you give, you must get something for it. You must. I know it sounds like I'm being kind of dictatorial here, but there's no point in giving something away if you're not going to gain some intelligence from it. I would also encourage you, by the way, there are going to be people who come to your booth that aren't qualified. They're not really your target audience. Make sure you always have kind of a self-guided experience at your booth that they can get through. So keep that in mind to satisfy everyone. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I just want to highlight your number one element is number seven on my list, your staff. So one, do you have a clear training? Is it led through a senior executive? Look at the blue stuff though, most important. Is your booth staff visible and accessible? All you need is something that is visible. I was in Lululemon 2 days ago. Staff had a red fanny pack that was strapped around their kind of upper chest, and everyone had that red fanny pack. I knew that was Lululemon staff, even though they were all wearing different Lululemon clothes. You don't have to have a dress code, but you do need to have an easily identifiable element. Sometimes kind of a scarf or a pocket square, too subtle. Make sure it's very visible. Make sure, even at a 10 by 10, very clear who is staffing. Are there the subject matter experts and the one-on-one helpers? Do you work together? Are you collecting leads? Not everybody needs leads, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but make sure you're doing that. Two metrics. You should have one staffer every 50 square feet. That means for every 10 by 10, there should be at least two staffers. However, at peak times, you should be having an extra staffer. Peak times typically 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So you need three people in a 10 by 10 booth. And the industry average is collecting 6 leads per hour. If we have time, I'll show you kind of what AI said. AI kind of underestimated this, but on average. Now, bear in mind, the early part of the day, you're not going to collect leads at 6 per hour, which is one every 10 minutes. The end of the day, you're not going to collect one every 10 minutes. That's why the peak staffing is really important that you rotate a third person in on peak staffing. Also, it's really hard to record success if you don't have the tools to do it. So the kit for ordering services, this is the 2025 lead retrieval form. The kit to order services that will be available coming up on I think June 11th. Kelly will weigh in here, 11th to 12th. That will have the kit to order your lead scanner. Highly recommend. Very hard to keep track of things you don't keep if you don't have a scanner to do that. So that'll be available through the online ordering kit. And it says the exhibitor kit will be emailed to everyone the week of June of 11th. So it may not be June 11th itself, but that week. So engaging attendees, stand at the aisle in front of your table, push your table towards the back. Here are some questions you can use. Most interesting breakout, most compelling new idea, speaker's been most compelling. Um, Two things matter when it comes to an engagement. Did they learn something new? And as a result of being with you, are they more likely to buy, work with, or consider buying from you? Those are the two things that we ask attendees when they walk away from a booth when we do intercept surveys. So again, we're keeping it less than 4 on who your qualifications are, what your goals are, what are the key messages. And there are two things. Did you answer their question and did they learn something new? And then make sure you're separating your leads. You're thinking about follow-up. You're personalizing your outreach. Use AI, by the way. I can upload my leads and say, hey, listen, here's my leads, my notes. Can you create emails for the folks that I interact with at the booth? And that is it. So let me take it off share for a minute. Okay. Are there any questions that I can answer for folks?
Yeah, David, I have a question for you. You didn't, let me just ask it as this. Any input or thoughts on video presentations in the booth, like a looping video presentation?
It's okay for passive consumption of information. I would be careful between if you're let's say you're using it as a way to kind of keep people engaged because you have two or three staffers during a peak. I think that's okay. I just want to be careful it doesn't become the only way they consume because it will act like a YouTube, meaning they see it once, they might keep going, and you might miss that engagement. Does that make sense?
Sure. And any idea how long a cycle would be on that's
I mean, I would probably keep it no longer than 30 seconds. You have 2.5 seconds to make an impression. You could, depending upon what you're showcasing, you could go up to a minute and a half or 2 minutes. If you have multiple products to showcase, I just be careful because if you get it up to 2 minutes, they're starting to think that they've consumed it versus they've gotten a kind of a amuse bouche, like a appetizer, and you want to engage them before they walk away from the meal.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm going to show you, by the way, while I got 3 minutes here, I'm just going to show you really quickly. I did ask Claude. Hopefully you can see this. Um, I said I'm a 10 by 10 booth of the assembly. How many leads can I expect to collect? I just want to give you a sense of what Claude did. It asked me how many total attendees. I've seen estimates, but not sure. So like I kind of put myself in your shoes. I mean, Kelly can talk to you about attendance. It's quite good. It's been on a very good upward trajectory for the last couple of years. But I said, like, I'm not even sure. How many staff? Two people. Lead capture plan to use badge scanner. So it went through and it said 40 to 80 leads. And here's how it did it: 2,000 attendees per AOPA, 1,400 likely to visit the exhibit hall. Six. By the way, I don't know the accuracy of all this. It's giving an estimate, probably off of total conference estimates, but 70% typical for O&P shows. 600, 800 target audience because of, analyzing this was the Lynn company I showed you earlier. 120, 160 will stop at your booth, 40, 80 leads. So, and you can see like why 40, 80 and not more. Two staff plus badge scanner is the right setup. Now, I think you need a third for the peak times and not to all 2,000 attendees of your buyer. So again, I share this with you, not necessarily to disappoint or excite as much as to show you, I don't think AI is accurate 100% of the time. I'm not sure if it's accurate 85% of the time, but 85% is pretty good. And I'm finding 80, 85% accuracy. Kelly and I did just discover on the sponsorships, for example, it was pulling information from another AOPA meeting. That's why we had an issue. So anyway,
Yeah.
use it to get information and to get a start. Call Kelly and Joy for information. And then finally, for humanitarian efforts for nonprofits, it depends on the way you're thinking about humanitarian efforts. You're thinking about like a community organized activity in your booth. People love that, especially millennials and Gen Z. So in the moment, yes. If you're talking about, let's say, a humanitarian trip overseas as part of your mission as a nonprofit, I would say to the question, like maybe you do a short video, 30, 45 seconds, but then you have a representative talking about how people can participate in that mission-driven work. And if you're looking for mission-driven nonprofits in Las Vegas, Kelly can help you. I can help you. Freeman has a big office. We do a lot of charity work and we work with a lot of clients, including, by the way, you could be promoting either humanitarian efforts in Las Vegas or how you can talk to folks about how they can share their expertise with the rest of the world. So remember, millennials and Gen Z are outcome driven. How do they affect the world? I would be positioning yourself on how you can help them affect and create a better world. So I hope it's helped all of you, and I'm looking forward to how this goes for you. And please, if there's any ways that Kelly or Joy or I can help you be successful, I'm absolutely here to ensure your total success at National Assembly. Kelly, Joy, thank you very much, and I'm going to hand
Yeah.
it back to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, David. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us today. Just a reminder, this is part one of a three-part education series. We have two others coming up, June 16th and then July 9th. That information has been sent in newsletter. Speaking of newsletter, you should get one day this week by the end of the week. It's going to include information of that marketing kick that David spoke of. As well, we have a new program kind of kicking off. It's an exhibitor ambassador program. So hopefully you all will be interested in that, and that is more information to come As always, you have my email address, you have my phone. I'm trying to talk. I don't want it to kick us off here, but thank you again. Look forward to seeing everybody soon. And again, reach out. Any questions? Appreciate all of you and have a great afternoon.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Take care,
Thanks very
everybody.
much, David. Thank you, everyone.
Pleasure.